my gorgeous darlings. Today I want to chat with you about delicious dopamine, which is the superhero of all the happy hormones and the coping chemicals. Like serotonin, an awful lot of it is produced in our gut, in the second brain, and travels up through that gut-brain axis. You know, where you got your first brain talking to your first brain as if it's on a telephone call, going, "You all right?" Not really, and then it responds, and the other way round. But hopefully we want to get you where the answer's, "Yeah, I'm actually doing really good, thanks." But the second brain used to be our first brain, and it contains more neurotransmitters than our entire spinal cords, which is amazing. 90% of our serotonin is in our gut too. By the way, the reason I look a little bit tall today is not because I'm wearing high heels, it's because I'm sitting on cushions. It's not because I'm a baby, it's because I'm going to show you some yoga poses today, as well as massage and a little bit of acupressure to get that dopamine flowing around your body. And because I'm not very tall, I need to sit on cushions like a 3-year-old. Anyway, we won't go there. I just want you to see me. Although I'm hoping in these trousers I won't look like some kind of, I don't know, big-bottomed, frustrated little elephant. Anyway, I must concentrate. Dopamine, it actually helps with concentration. So it's really good I'm doing this today. Dopamine is the super neurotransmitter because, most importantly, it is the neurotransmitter of that beautiful feeling of reward and pleasure. It's your superpower, actually. It's one of your superpowers. And if we can get those dopamine levels up, it's going to massively, massively help us cope with our mental health, these strange times, worries, anxiety, stress, sleep. All of this is going to help with everything. So I really want to polish that superpower until it's all shiny and gorgeous. So dopamine is obviously in the gut, produced in the gut, but it's also produced in the brain. So I'm going to come on to that later when I explain a little bit with the massage, but we're going to concentrate on the yoga for now. And the reason I'm doing it sitting on my sofa, yes, I've got a yoga mat. Yes, we all know how to do yoga properly, but the way I like to share things is for everybody, whether you're in a hospital bed, whether you're in a wheelchair, whether you have reduced mobility for any reason, and all of the things I'm going to share with you, even if you can't do them by yourself, you can get somebody to help you, to assist you. Just remember though that yoga should never hurt. For years, when I used to just do yoga before I trained in it, I honestly used to think if you didn't feel the pain, it wasn't working. And some of the yoga classes I went to involved blocks and straps, and I thought, have I come to the right place? You know what I mean. It just felt a bit odd. Anyway, yoga shouldn't hurt. It should never, never hurt. If it starts to hurt, stop, because you don't want to be all achy like you are after you've been to the gym or walked up a mountain or something. You want to open up the diaphragm, boost that beautiful deep breathing. And if you're in pain, you're not going to do that. You're going to be hyperventilating and trying not to vomit blood. So we want to keep our bodies fluid. So if you can't quite do all of the poses, as they're called, the asanas, the positions, just go as far as you can. And if it starts to hurt, just stop and you build up to it gradually. Because if you're in agony and crying your eyes out because you're in pain, there will be no dopamine. There will just be pain and stress. And we don't want to boost the stress hormone, we want to boost the dopamine. So it all makes sense. So we want to open up this diaphragm, because that gets the breathing really going. Don't forget, on other videos I've talked a little bit about people who reverse breathe. So in other words, when they breathe in, their tummies go in. I used to do it for years. But actually, when you breathe in, your tummies should come out. And so yoga really helps our little reverse breathers out there. Reverse breathing, by the way, is a sign of long-term stress and anxiety, prolonged trauma. you know, any kind of mental health that's gone on for a while, people will start to reverse breathe, but you can correct it. And I always say to all my little kiddies who reverse breathe and my young adults who I see, it's another little superpower, because you can do it both ways. But you want to breathe, you want your tummies to come out when you breathe in and then go in when you breathe out. That's the ideal, because then you've opened up the lungs, you've opened up the gut, and if you open up the gut, you're going to be pushing that dopamine and serotonin up the spinal cord to the brain. We've got so many neurotransmitters that act like dopamine and that are serotonin and dopamine in our gut, that the gut, the second brain, which starts at the mouth, goes down the esophagus, right down to the gut, the tummy, the liver, the intestines, the colon, all of this, all the components of the gut. We have so many neurotransmitters in the gut, it could actually run as an independent nervous system all on its own, which is amazing. Used to be our first brain, gut instinct, seat of meltdown, where we feel excitement, dread, fear, as I've said on other videos I've made. So we really want to push that dopamine up. So just to go over a little bit what dopamine does, it's that beautiful super neurotransmitter of that feeling of reward, pleasure. You know, I'm not being cheeky, but when you make love, you're releasing tons of dopamine, you know. It comes up the vagus nerve, actually. So that's how it gets up into the first brain. It travels up the vagus nerve, dopamine. So it's really fascinating how we're put together. But dopamine is also that amazing super hormone of concentration, focus, motivation, you know, that drive and excitement to learn more and be more, to achieve your goals. It's beautiful. It's my very, very, very favourite hormone. You know my favourite colour's yellow because it means joy. Well, if I could colour in the neurotransmitters, dopamine would be the brightest yellow you could ever imagine. It would be like plunging into the middle of a beautiful big daffodil. Anyway, so let's get it on the move. So here we go with the gut. So I'm sitting in what is called the easy pose, and I've got my feet tucked inside each other like this. You will have seen this, the easy pose it's called. You don't need to sit there doing this. If you want to, go ahead. I never do because I feel like a bit of a wally, but I like my palms open because it's, to me, that's like receiving. It's just lovely, and it's also beaming out my yellow dopamine light. So I keep my hands relaxed on my knees. Now, if you're in a wheelchair, or you don't have much mobility in your legs, or you know you really can't do this, don't worry about it. As I said, yoga should never hurt. Even if you can just cross your legs partly, or just, you know, if you're in a wheelchair, just keep your legs where they are and just open up your diaphragm, just relax and concentrate on that tummy area. You're going to be pushing up that dopamine. Just do it for as much as you can stand. Don't do it so that you're in agony. So this is nice and relaxed, and we've opened up. And then, now normally I would stand up to do this, but I'm just reaching over like this. It's the triangle pose. So if I was standing up, I'd have my arms like this and my legs like a triangle planted on the floor like this. But because I want to include everybody, because we all have different abilities, so you do first one side and then the other, but you keep your body facing ahead so that you're really opening up this gut. You're pushing up that serotonin and dopamine. And it's also really nice to give our bodies a good stretch. So many of us have an awful lot of screen time now. I have this really irritating thing that comes up on my iPhone every single Monday, and it always says, Juliana, your time on the phone has increased by, and it's always terrible. And I don't like being on screens, but there we are. It's the way I could get to all of you. So that's easy. That's the triangle pose. So even if you're in a wheelchair or hospital bed, just do it for as much as you can. Don't worry if you can't stretch fully over. It doesn't matter. The main thing is you're getting that dopamine and serotonin up from the gut. So because that second brain is massively connected to our first brain. It's like the downstairs brain, the caveman brain, the one that, you know, when we're in fight or flight, we're really going from there, obviously, you know, but just think of all those delicious neurotransmitters you're pushing up your spine. So if you have a child that doesn't like touch all that much, or you yourself don't really like touch, because we're all different, yoga might be the way for you to get that dopamine and serotonin zooming up into your brains and filling you with yellow. So then we've got a seated twist, which these things all sound a little bit like torture, but they're not, and they shouldn't feel like that. So the seated twist is when you turn to the side. You normally put your hand down, and I often put my hand just in the small of my back there, because I really like to think, you know, and sometimes I'll give it a little rub as well to give that dopamine an extra little whoosh, like shaking up a bottle of lemonade. But you're just stretching like that. And then, of course, once you've done one side in yoga, it's a bit like with massage, you do the other side. But just do it for as much as you can bear. For some people, you might only be able to get there. That's fine. Just push yourself a little bit each time you do it to try and get a little bit further round. But you break yourself in gently, you know, like a little bit of steak being tenderized. So you just, you know, just take your time with it. So, and you're keeping everything open, and this will really help with your breathing, which will make it deeper instead of shallow. It will hopefully help to start correct that breathing if it's reverse breathing, and it will help to push those beautiful super neurotransmitters up into your brain, flooding your body with that delicious feeling of reward. So then there's the seated forward roll. I'm going to try and do this on the sofa. Normally I would be on my yoga mat, but I'm sitting on cushions because I'm so small, and I tried to shrink down my tripod thing that I put my phone on. I'm so technical, it's just great, isn't it? But I was too little. So here we go. I can't even reach. Hang on a minute. I've got a flipping heck, I'm shrinking. Just said flipping heck on YouTube. Right, okay. So your back is nice and straight, and you're just leaning forwards. Now, I'll be honest with you, I did a massive walk yesterday. Just had to get out. Lots and lots going on, and I had to have my thinking time. I really, really did. So normally my tummy would be right on my thighs. Not my tummy wouldn't be on my thighs. I mean, my chest would be on my thighs. And this is helping to really get that dopamine up. But because I've pulled the muscles in the back of my legs by going up an absolutely vertical mountain, because I live on Exmoor, and I was getting a bit too excitable because I wanted to see this amazing sunset, I've pulled my hamstrings. So today, because yoga must never hurt, I'm only going so far. And that's not an excuse, by the way, that's the truth, because I don't tell fibs. So I can only really get to there today. You don't need to do all of these. If you don't like that one and you're in agony, as I say, leave it out. But for those of you who are very bendy and flexible, it's not a problem. Go for it. You're whizzing up that dopamine. Oh, I need a cushion again, because there's another one I want to show you. And this one you can do for your children if they can't quite do it for themselves, but they will be able to do it. Well, I call it the rainbow rock and roll when I've got my private sessions with all my kids. I've got thousands of kids, as you know. So, but if you've got somebody in, and I often go into centres where there are young adults in wheelchairs, and it's absolutely lovely to get them out on beautiful furry rugs, because it's lovely for them to get out of those wheelchairs. And you can literally hold their legs to do this. Now, if you're doing it for yourself, I hope you can see me. I've got the most awful feeling you're all looking at a huge grey bottom. My apologies if so. But you've got your back on the floor. I'm on the sofa, obviously, as I've explained. And you're literally rolling like this from side to side. If I was on my mat, I'd be able to get right down to the floor. But I'm a bit worried if I get too over-exuberant on here, I'm going to launch off the sofa and land on the floor and kick the phone flying. Because that's just me. It really is, honestly. It's a nightmare being me. Sometimes I wish I could pack my bags and get away from me, go camping for a week. Right, so if you've got somebody in a wheelchair, you can actually move their legs for them like this, in a circular motion. They're lying on their backs, and you can just move their legs like this. But make sure that their thighs are on their tummies. Sometimes you can get the kids to kiss one knee and then kiss another knee if you've got little kids. Obviously, if you tried to make a 30-year-old do that, they'd feel a bit silly. But you can get the kids to lean up and kiss each knee, because that is pushing up the serotonin. It really gets their thighs right on their tummies and helps to push up all those beautiful neurotransmitters. I just love them. I really love them. So there we go. That's a little bit of yoga to help you push the dopamine up. So now the other things you can do, for those of you who do like touch, I have to stay on my cushion, is you can massage your lower back. So again, apologies if you're looking at, what do I look like? Oh God. There we go. You're literally just massaging your back there. I'm only using my fingers, not my thumbs. And here you're right behind the gut and you're pushing up all that gorgeous dopamine. But don't forget, 90% of your serotonin is in your gut. So you're pushing that up too. And everybody loves to, people do it naturally, don't they? When they need a good stretch or, they're not quite awake, you'll see them lean back and go, oh, It's amazing how we do these things so instinctively, and very often we don't even realise why. We've done it for years. You can also massage up your neck, so either side of your neck. So if you imagine that this is my neck, right? You're going up either side of the neck like this. So you're not on the bone, you're either side of the neck, and you're going upwards, always upwards. So when you get to the top of the neck, go back to the bottom of the neck and gently massage up. And this is absolutely beautiful, not only because a lot of us are on screens so much, and again, this is one you see people do quite instinctively without realising, but either side of the neck, you've got where the vagus nerve begins. The vagus nerve is the biggest nerve of the autonomic nervous system. So all the things we do automatically, which is actually 99% of what we do, growing eyelashes, sweating, palpitating when we're in fight or flight. We don't sit there and think, oh, I must grow another hair, and I've got a few eyelashes to grow. I must breathe now. Oh, I've got to release, acids to digest all the proteins and fats in my tummy. We don't sit there doing that. It's done automatically. So if you think of autonomic nervous system as automatic, it's all the things we do without having to think. Our bodies just do it. So I don't know how I got onto that one. I get so excited when I go off on these tangents. So when you're pushing up the vagus nerve, you are pushing that dopamine and flooding it into the brain. As I've said before, kids with ADHD, ADD, executive function disorder, pathological demand avoidance, some of the autism spectrum, what else? Executive function deficit. This is what is happening here in the brain, is that it's just not making enough dopamine. If you think about ADHD, attention deficit disorder, it's autistic spectrum disorder, ADD is attention deficit disorder. Our language around it is terrible. It's all disorders and deficits, which I find very negative and very limiting. I wish it could just be called attention difference, it's the language around it, it's a difference. And so therefore, as I've said on videos before, things like ADHD, pathological demand avoidance, attention deficit disorder, all of these things, it is because the dopamine, which stimulates focus, attention, concentration, motivation, is simply not being produced. It really is like zooming up to somebody who's blind and putting them into detention because they're not reading a normal book, or a deaf person because, they're not answering you when you're standing behind them. It's as strong as that. I'm not being funny, but it is. It's not a conduct disorder, which is what the government still call these things. These are not conduct disorders. You know, they're not willful. It's the way the brain is wired. And if your brain doesn't make enough dopamine, you are going to be lacking in motivation, concentration, focus, and drive, that motivation. When you're depressed, when you're going through prolonged mental health, when you're anxious, when you can't sleep, you are deficient in dopamine. So it's really, really important, even if you don't have ADHD or any sort of different wiring of the brain, if you have depression, anxiety, insomnia, all of these poses I've shown you with yoga all help with that, because dopamine is all linked. You know, we don't have any dopamine left if we're undergoing these things. And lots of the medication that children with attention deficit disorders are put on simulate dopamine. So it just goes to prove that this is really what's going on in the brain. Anyway, that was almost a rant. If you've got cancer or have had cancer, don't massage up your neck because of the lymph. You don't want to carry any cancer. So, oh, I'm sorry, I've found out somebody very dear to me has it, so it's a little bit on my mind. So, yes, so you wouldn't massage up the neck for that. Also, don't massage up the neck for too long, because you've got really important, quite big arteries and veins in there, the jugular vein, the carotid artery. So, you know, I would say no more than 5 minutes doing that. 2 to 3 is ideal. The other thing you can do right now, and again, imagine this is a head, right? And there's where the neck starts. Dopamine, when it's produced in the brain, is produced in the hypothalamus, deep in the brain. And it travels up the sides of the head to the temples. So I'm now going to make myself have really enormous, absolutely terrible hair. But I don't care. I've already shown you my massive grey bottom, so I might as well mess my hair up. And the path of dopamine, excuse me please, I've just got to turn around again. It's like a keep fit one, this. So that it starts either side of that hollow bit. Now that hollow bit, the top of your neck, is called the medulla oblongata. Sounds a bit like Indian royalty or deity, but it's not. I don't know why it's called that. But anyway, the medulla oblongata. So either side of there is where the vagus nerve begins. Yay! The start of that gut-brain axis. Those of you who know about the polyvagal theory, you'll know that. There we go, so it's there. So you want to, because the dopamine has come up the vagus nerve, you're going up there, and then the hypothalamus is deep in the near the brainstem, and you're going up with the pads of the fingers in circular motions like this without breaking contact. You're going up the sides of the head, following the path of dopamine, and you're finishing up right near the temples, and then onto the temples. Capital city of the happy hormones and coping chemicals. So I'm going to show you from the front now. So you're going from that vagus nerve, and if you imagine, right, this is my head, this is the motion I'm doing, and it doesn't matter whether you're going clockwise or anti-clockwise, but round to the temples. So from either side of the medulla oblongata, up round the sides of the head, round to the temples. And the reason we go round to the temples as well is because although dopamine is made deep in the brain, it travels up the sides of the head and is stored in the temples, along with the other 3 main happy hormones and coping chemicals, and those 3 are made and produced there. So here we go. I'm going up the sides of my head, and you're not just in your hair, you're in the roots. So you're actually moving the scalp. If you're just tossing your hair around, you're not going to do anything other than have very tangly hair. There we are. And I'm at my temples, and I've probably got 6 foot wide hair. So that is how you get the dopamine flowing in your actual head and your gut. So we've done the whole gut-brain axis, which is where the dopamine really, really, really comes into play. If you suffer with anxiety and you're a little bit kind of stimulated, because everything I've shown you today is really quite stimulating, even though it does actually help with insomnia, because if we're in a happy place, we're going to sleep better. So it really, really does help with that too. There's an acupressure point just below your collarbone. Let me just pull my thing down. Right, there we go. Just there. So if you just press there and hold it for, I don't know, 4 to 5 seconds and then release. Those are anxiety points. And you just press and release. Press and release. And it's good to do this for a good minute, 45 seconds to a minute. And it's a bit like that anxiety point in the hand, but this is another one here, you see? And it just calms everything down, even me. And just really helps if you suffer with depression, anxiety, insomnia. This is such a lovely one. This one here is actually also a fear centre. So I'm always really careful when I massage people there, because if I know they're very, very vulnerable, I'll tend to just put my hand there, just press and release rather than massage. So for any of you massage therapists out there, if you didn't already know that one, I'm sure you do. Yeah, just press and release, do acupressure rather than massage if somebody is very vulnerable. So there we go. We've had our Tuesday start, delicious dopamine. If you want to know any more about this, please go to Anna Kennedy online. I've written a 2-minute read article to accompany this video and diagrams of the yoga poses that I've talked about. So I really, really hope that helps. And also on my public Facebook group, which is Online Rainbow Therapies for Kids and Families, completely free therapies every day for therapists, kids, families, other professionals, teachers, yourselves, whoever. I post something there every day. But I'm also raising money at the moment for Young Minds, a charity which is very, very, very dear to me. And my goal is £1,000 and I'm on about 750. So if you would like to donate to that, you can find me on Facebook, and it's Young Minds charity. Anyway, I shall love you and leave you. I've been very excitable today. I feel like I need to issue you all with a lovely medal for putting up with it. It's actually even longer video than last week. I think I actually need my own YouTube show. Mind you, can you imagine? Everybody would go mad. I'm wishing you loads of yellow, loads of dopamine. Grab those moments, keep on top of things, and I promise you, I'm absolutely with you. And if there's anything in particular you'd really like me to make a video about, honestly, drop me a line. It's info@therapiesforspecialneeds.co.uk. Drop me a line, and you know, I'll do anything I can to help. So take care, everybody. Stay warm and safe, and I shall see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.